Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. In this very good opportunity, I would like to deliver my presentation about language and age. And before I begin, let me introduce myself first. My full name is Imara Alhamani, and you can call me Imara. And I'm currently a part of Language and Society class 2019B. Well, in the first slide, we will see the definition. The definition of language itself is, according to the Oxford Dictionary, the meaning of language is the system of communication in speech and writing that is used by people of a particular country or area. We also can assume that language is the expression of ideas by means of speech sounds combined into words. Words are combined into sentences, and this combination answering to that of ideas into thought. So, in other words, language is a form of words that can be combined into sentences, and it will be used for humans to communicate or express their knowledge or thought about something. The next one is about the definition of age. According to the Oxford Dictionary, the meaning of age is the number of years that a person has lived or a thing that has existed. In this context, age leads to the number of person who has lived. Age in this context also indicated some differences between several age range or life stages such as childhood, teen, adolescent, elderly, and the other. Age may be more meaningful social category in some cultures than in others. So, after talking about the definition of language and age, we will see the correlation between those two. Language is an important aspect of our life. With language, we can communicate with others. We can express our knowledge and experience through several words that connected into a sentences, as what I said before. And language is important because it holds what are humans' feelings, emotions, knowledge, and opinion through several words that connected into a sentences. There has been more research on the language of childhood and adolescence than on the language of the middle years, and unfortunately state of affairs given the middle age bias that exists in work on age and generation specific use of language. It is becoming recognized, however, that adult language as well as child language develops in response to important life events that affect the social relations and social attitudes of individuals. So the next one is about age-graded features. In language and gender, we can see that men and women have different pitch when they speak. There are other features of people's speech which vary at different ages too. Not only pitch, but vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar can differentiate age groups. There are patterns which are appropriate for 10 years old or teenagers, which can be disappear as they grow older. These are age-graded patterns or features. The extensive swear word vocabulary which some teenagers use is similarly likely to change over time. As example 12 suggests, the frequency with which they use such word tends to diminish, especially as they begin to have children and socialize with others with young families. It seems possible that adult men restrict swearing largely to all male settings, whereas females reduce their swearing in all settings as they move into adulthood. Age grading refers to a change of behaviors with age that repeats itself in each generation. More commonly, however, the term refers to age-specific differences in a more general senses characterizing the language considered appropriate to and typical of different stages in the lifespan. We can see that children range age could be started at 12 years old and under, and the next one is teenager that can be started for 13 years old until 19 years old, and the next one is adult that can be started for the age range of 20, and the last one is elderly that can be started from the age range of 60. Age grading may also involve the use of age preferential features, which are used by speakers of all ages in the community, but more frequently by some age groups than others. Age grading is not necessarily associated with language change, since individuals may change the language during their lifetime, whilst the community as a whole does not change. Indeed, one of the greatest challenges in the analysis of language change in progress is deciding when age differences in language use to reflect a change in community norms and when they reflect stable age grading. One of the most obvious pitch differences between women and men is in the pitch of their voices. Most people believe these differences develops at puberty. It is thought that to be as difficult to guess the gender of a 5 years old on the phone as it is to identify the gender of a swaddled infant from its wheels and coos. It is certainly true that young boys' voices often break at puberty and become noticeably lower in a pitch. Their voice quality reflects their physical growth. Boys' vocal cords generally grow faster and bigger than girls at puberty. Men's heads and lungs are also larger than women's, just as older people's are bigger than a children's. As a result, male voices generally sound slower in the pitch than women's, just as adult voices sound deeper than children's. Differences are relative, however, and the pitch ranges of women and men overlap to a considerable extent. In any community, there will always be some women whose natural speaking pitch is deeper than that of some men. Not only pitch that make difference with age and language, but there are patterns that are appropriate for 10 years old and teenager but disappear as they grow older, such as swear word, and teenagers tend to use swear word than children and adults. Generally speaking, teenagers use swear words more often, and adult men restrict swearing largely to all male settings, and female reduce swearing in all settings as they move into adulthood. And next one is about a slang. Slang is the linguistic prerogative of young people, or an area of vocabulary that young people usually use. The example is wicked and groovy. The next one is about the age-exclusive features. Some age-exclusive features may be due to maturational factors, reflecting, in other words, biological age. Examples are the one-word utterance typical of children aged about 1 year, or the trembling voice associated with elderly speakers. Features such as these would, of course, be expected to occur universally. Other age-exclusive features are culture-specific, reflecting societal attitudes toward different age groups. Even here, however, the form used by adults when speaking to children mark children as low-status participants in the interaction. Parents, for example, tend to use unmitigated directives to their children, which aim to prohibit undesirable behavior, but which simultaneously mark the unequal role relationship. Research and Research on various languages has shown how parents and other adults instruct their children about the way they are expected to speak as children rather than as adults. The address term used by adults to children also mark their inferior social status. Speakers of languages with two or more second-person pronouns use the informal pronouns to children and animals rather than the polite form. And in English and many other languages, non-reciprocal address forms such as dear, sweetie may be used to children. The next one is about age and social dialect data. Social dialect data research has provided a great deal of information about patterns of pronunciation and grammar, and more recently discourse particles. By their teenage years, most young people in English-speaking communities have developed an awareness of the significance of standard English variants, though they may not choose to use them. A common pattern shows that the use of vernacular form is high in childhood and adolescence. The usage steadily reduces as people approach middle age when social pressure to conform are greatest. Vernacular usage gradually increases again in the old age as social pressure reduced, with people moving out of the workforce and into a more relaxed phase of their life. The next one is about the age grading and language change. When linguistic change is spreading through a community, there will be a regular increase of or decrease in the use of the linguistic form over time. For an innovation, a form on the increase, this will show up in a graph as a low use of the form by older people and a higher use among young people. For a form which is disappearing, just the opposite will be true. Younger people will use less of the form and older people more. The relationship between language and ethnicity is so apparent in a community where a particular language is associated with a particular ethnic group. So that's all from my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.